Welcome to the podcast. This is Commerce 3.0. We are going to be talking about all things technology in commerce, whether that's retail, bricks and mortar, online, or some blending of the two of them. My name is Chris Daly. I am the host of Commerce 3.0. I am the founder and CEO of a company called I Want That. We are working in technology in commerce. My background is I've spent about 30 years in sales and marketing, and about 20 years of that working in and with retailers, both on the agency side and as a retailer. And today, what I want to talk to you about is a little bit about what I would call future commerce. There's so much that's going on right now in technology, in particular, unless you were sleeping under a rock, the explosion of artificial intelligence. And we're going to talk a little bit about AI, right now and what that really means. I think when most people talk about it, the first thing you think of is either data from Star Trek, or maybe even the ship's computer on a spaceship where you could talk to the computer. Well, one of those is realistic and the other one is not. And believe it or not, the one that is not particularly realistic is the robot, although the robotics are kind of moving forward right now. But the voice to text and the ability to converse with technology tools could be something that comes into play maybe before the end of this year. OpenAI has their beta that's coming up right now where they're testing their voice to text. And we all know that Amazon and Google and Apple have all tested Siri, Alexa, and Google Home for a long time, training it on people's voices, voice recognition, pattern recognition, dialects, etc. When you combine that with some of the other artificial intelligence that's coming out right now, it's going to be something that you're going to end up thinking about, looking at, or having it come to you at some point in time working with your commerce operation. And there's really kind of 4, maybe 5 different places where it might make a lot of sense. One, I don't know if you've ever seen Shopify's chatbot when they deployed and tested their chatbot at the shopping event earlier this year. It was a pretty impressive demonstration. The CEO of Shopify basically asked the bot to tell the bot that he was having a dinner party and it was some sort of a Japanese dish. And the bot asked him, was it going to be lamb or chicken or pork? It was asking him what kind of meat it would be. And based on that, it went out and said, here are some of the utensils and the tools that you would need to cook and prepare that meal. Here's some recipes for it. It did a lot. And that is kind of an interesting way to look about it. The chatbots and the AIs, the way that they're going to work, in particular for retailers, is that it's going to be trained on your data. So it's going to know the things that people have purchased. It doesn't forget things unless you delete it. It doesn't forget things at all. So it will know transaction histories. It will know product descriptions, use cases. There may be more data that you end up entering in and filling in when you produce products for your stores, just so that you can train the bot to help answer the questions that customers commonly have. So if a customer comes and says, hey, I want to have a birthday party for my 8-year-old son, it's going to come up with a bunch of things right away. And here's the list, and here's the things from the store that we recommend. And then you could go back and say, hey, you know what? My son likes, Spider-Man. And so can you help me find things that would be, a Marvel, or is that Marvel? I think it's Marvel oriented type party. And it will come back and do those things. So it will be a conversation, though, not necessarily where you're typing anymore, as much as you would be talking to your phone and asking for questions where the bot is finding things. And it will even get to the point where the bots can actually check you out, where, a customer may have a digital wallet and they'll just connect those two together with the shopping cart and out you go. So those are real things. They're really coming. Some you'll probably see in the holidays of this year. Some you'll see early next year, but they're definitely on the road. The Shopify presentation was really, really interesting. It kind of surprised me that it had the content there also for the recipes and stuff to make that dish that the CEO had asked for. So those are things to think about: the content that you have that bring people to your site, and the things that you sell to help them live the lifestyle, life stage, et cetera, that you're providing them products and services for. So that's something to think about. The other thing that artificial intelligence can do, and one other thing about artificial intelligence, there's like 4 different classes of it. 2 of them are like futuristic. I'm sentient. I'm thinking. I'm emotional. I think the last thing we need is an emotional robot. To be honest with you, we've got enough going on right now. But the others are more about machine learning and optimization. And if you go back to college, you might have learned about linear programming. Those were optimization and maximization routines where you had a bunch of rules and it would optimize around it. And a lot of these tools are doing just that. So, for example, in your assortment, you may carry certain products and you may have a bot that says, hey, I need to add some new products to my assortment. My catalog is, let's say we're going to have a category of jeans. It may go out and say, hey, we sell Western wear, we sell Western jeans. Can you go find me some brands for this, some new and emerging brands? And the chatbot can do that for you. It'll be an assistant that will help you find the products that you want, find the wholesalers that you want, and or manufacturers where you can private label your own. And it'll help you find those connections and put that stuff together for you. And that's the productivity gain, right? A lot of artificial intelligence, I think people worry about it as it's going to replace my job. It's really not for a while. Maybe one day when it gets to be that sentient thing, then we should be worried. But to be honest with you, the support that it has, for example, I asked, ChatGPT, hey, can you produce a list of 365 days of content around e-commerce that we can talk about? There was the list. I was like, all right, nice. So, those types of assistants are the things that you're going to experience as artificial intelligence really takes root. We've been playing around with it for a while, but it's not the type of artificial intelligence that you just sort of set it up, it goes and does stuff. You train it, right? So, like Google trains on your voice, and just like it just sort of went off on my phone, it trains on your voice. And so when you say the words, hey, whatever, it goes off and does these things. It can recognize you versus someone else in your home. And the same will happen with these bots when it comes to work. You're going to have bots that will help you find products, price products, make bids and offers on products and services, etc. So it's going to be a really, really interesting, year and a half where these things really start coming to play. And one of the things that can give you some insight to it, there's a company called Y Combinator. They're an incubator in Silicon Valley, and in the winter 23 class that just graduated about a week or two ago, 98% of the platforms there were AI. So that'll tell you where it's heading. And there's a lot more coming in the next classes too. So the other thing that bots can help you do is pricing. So depending on the pricing strategies you have, if it's IMU or also known as high-low, if you use EDLP, everyday low price, MSRP, or if you're just using market facing. And in particular, if you're using market facing, the AI bots that you're going to be able to use will be able to go out and sort and say, for this product, particularly if you have a SKU and or a UPC code that is common across multiple merchants, it's going to tell you what the price is everywhere else. And it's going to come back and say, hey, you've got this product and you've got it for $9.99. They got it for $19.99. Now, the trick is the bot's going to say, hey, yeah, they've got this for $19.99. You should be pricing up. But you don't necessarily know that you have the same customer that they have who might pay $19.99 for it. And you might have one that only pays $9.99 for it. So it's something to think about. The information that will come back has to be taken into context of, do I have a customer that will spend that? And or can I shift those customers to me if I do price it that way, right? They may have not purchased it from me at $9.99 thinking it was broken, used, not as good a quality as somebody else. So those are all things that you'll have to work on. But the ability for it to manage pricing and manage pricing based on demand and volume that's happening right now is very real. Those tools have been actually around for a while. They're optimization tools. They're usually, reserved for enterprise class companies, but that kind of stuff, it wouldn't surprise me to see it on platforms like a Shopify or a BigCommerce or Magento, Adobe Commerce, or even Salesforce. Salesforce has a lot of AI work that they're doing right now. So that would not surprise me to see that come down to where everyday retailers can have access to those tools. The other thing that might help you do is go out and find products. If you want to do some assortments, if you want to do new product searches, if you want to look at competitive products and do a competitive assessment of a company, it will help you do that. Say, hey, we sell Western wear, this company sells Western wear. Go assess that for me. And it will be amazing how well it comes back and says, here's what they have, here's what they're selling, here's what you're selling, here's what they're selling. Oh my gosh, here's the overlap, but here's where they have things that you don't, if you want to match them in the market or beat them in the market, right? So there's a lot of things that those will do. The last place where it's probably going to have a big impact that should help a lot of people is inventory management. A lot of merchants, particularly smaller merchants, are using things like QuickBooks, maybe FreshBooks or some of the others that help you manage your inventory and keep track of that double entry, which pain in the ass. Those things will get solved because double entry is a rules-based system, and so AI is really good at rules. So you'll be able to go out and say, we've sold 5,000 of these pairs of shoes. We need to make this update, or we've got some shoes in our inventory. Go find out how many are in inventory and give me the reports. You'll be able to talk to your ERP system and say, hey, and I did this. There's a company called Bronco AI that's coming out of Y Combinator right now. And Bronco AI, I said, hey, I would like to see the top 20% of customers in the last 12 months that we can go out and do some sort of a marketing campaign to. It came back and said, I'm going to connect the customer table to the transaction table on customer ID and customer name. I'm going to take the transactions from 12 months back from today. I'm going to aggregate those to the customer ID. Then I'm going to sort them in order, descending on spend, and take the top 20%. And I was like, oh, that's right. Like, that's very good. It actually told me the tables it was joining. It told me how it was doing it. And I'm like, oh my God, that's right. And it was as easy as saying, I would like those 20% of the customers. So when you go through your database and your CRM applications and you start working on your customer files, you can name segments. You could call it the stable base. How you score your customer file, you'll be able to have the AI bot do that, to go out and say, hey, can you do an RFM score for the last 12 months on the file and update it right now? And it'll go out, done. It'll come right back. And so it's those things that you really have to look for that are near term that will give you advantages. And the reason why is that by doing a better job of segmenting your file and detailing your data out, you'll do a better job of pricing, because you'll see that there are customers on there who buy an average item price for you that might be $19.99, where someone else is only doing $9.99. Giving those people the same offer doesn't make any sense, because 10% off might move to $9.99, might not. 10% off, you're just giving it away to the $19.99. They don't need that to transact with you. And so it will help you do that in the optimization of offers. That's one of the things that we're working on, is offer orchestration and the optimization of offers. So it's really an interesting thing. A lot of people talk about AI. It's a big, overwhelming thing, but those are 4 or 5 different things that you should look for in the coming year that will really be impactful for your business. And even if you just pick off one, I mean, a chatbot, honestly, chatbot could take care of all of your customer service work and do a better job, because it remembers who you are. And it doesn't forget things. So there's certainly some things coming on in there. The other thing that might come up here in the future, and one of the things that we think is going to get more traction, is what we call persona of one. Back in 1998, I worked for a company where we built behavioral personas for large retailers. And what that is basically we take your buying behavior, and we had, at the time, it seemed like a lot, we had about 2,000 columns of data. And we used a tool called Principal Components Analysis that breaks that down into a bunch of different columns that sort of move together. And they called those factors. And once we had finished the factor analysis, then we went in and we clustered them based on buying behaviors. And when you do cluster analysis like that, you could end up with like 30 or 40 or 50 clusters. The problem is when I go to a CEO and say, here's your 40 clusters, they'll be like, I can remember 4. And we're like, okay. So we would collapse those into about 6 to 8 meaningful clusters. And then we would demonstrate, we would enhance those with survey data, et cetera. And the idea is that you create this persona, and the persona isn't necessarily predictive of future behavior. A persona is kind of who this person is and why they're engaging with your brand and what they're doing and how to engage back with them. It's how to communicate with them. It's how to use the words. Here's a great example. I worked with a company that was doing some consulting work, and they went to a utility company, and they're like, well, teams. And they're like, we don't have teams, we have crews, which was a big distinction, right? That the customer or the client said, hey, we don't have teams. That's like basketball and baseball. We have crews, and if our crews don't function correctly, they get electrocuted. So it's very important for us to understand how to communicate, right? And so it was things like that that are important within the personas. Well, the reality is I can create personas where there's 6 to 8 meaningful personas that describe your brand. The customer who shops twice a year, but she spends $1,000. The customer spends 12 times a year, spends $1,000. They look the same when you look at how much they spend. But when you look at who they are, one lives very close to a store, one travels for work. And so she basically is like a clienteling. She'd be great for like a Stitch Fix or something like that, where you can take her and send her some products monthly and say, hey, we have your size, color, fit, style. We have all that information on, and we're going to send that to you. That's where you create customization and engagement with customers. It's those personas that give you that insight. It's kind of like one of the personas that we have. We call them the the bargain savvy, and most people call them the bottom feeders. They're the people who only shop when you have clearance. You know who they are, and you think, wow, they suck because I don't make any profits on it. But their purpose isn't profits. What we were explaining to our clients was their purpose was to move inventory and not have you factor it. And so when we changed how they perceived what they were doing, they would sell at clearance maybe 70, 80% off, but they were still making, 30% margin on it versus, 5, 6, 7 cents on the dollar when they factored. So they're like, oh, wait, hold on. We should do this all day long. I'm like, yes, with those customers, right? So personas will help you figure out how to communicate and engage these people. But the reality is with the technology we have today in digital, you should be able to do personas of one. If you're relying on things like demographics and stuff from Google Analytics, don't. That stuff's not accurate at all. But doing enhancements, having them share data with you and asking them how they use your products, etc., will really help you build a more accurate and relevant retail experience for them, whether it's online, it's in store, or both. That's really important for you to understand. Like, I have shopped with Lowe's for years. We have an old house that we've been rebuilding for 20 years. Lowe's wouldn't know that. Why? I don't know. You'd see the stuff I bought, thousands of dollars. You'd think they go, God, are you renovating a house? I'm like, yes. and so, but I don't ever get anything from them like that. Not once. So that's kind of a miss, right? If a big company like that should know these things about their customers, but they don't. And those will make differences between the people who know their customers and can engage with them because it gives you ideas on what else to buy for them to help them live the lifestyle or life stage that they're at. The other thing that's coming up that's kind of going on right now, and I think everybody kind of does it a little differently, it's called social commerce. And social commerce, a lot of people are like, well, yeah, I could put a store on Facebook. Yeah, it's not social commerce. That's just selling in a new marketplace called Facebook. You put on TikTok, guess what? You're selling in a marketplace called TikTok, but it's not social commerce. The one that's closest to it is going to make you kind of freak out a little bit. It's actually Twitter. Twitter has Twitter Spaces. And the idea of social commerce is not that you push your products into the social apps and they find it. That's no different than them searching on Google. And they may not even do that anymore. That's a different thing that's coming up. Google search, we believe search is going to change. There will be Google search that's like you have always, that's not very good. And the ChatGPT version, which is, I need you to go find me the things for this party. And that's what's going to happen. And like 3 or 4 things are going to come back and that's it. And so you've really got to start thinking about where your product's going to be seen at in that respect. But in terms of the social commerce, Twitter has these things called Twitter Spaces. And in the Twitter space, people get together and they talk. So this kind of reminds me a little bit of, yes, I'm older. My mom had these, I didn't have these. Tupperware parties, or the Avon lady would come to your house, or maybe a group of people, Mary Kay, they'd have the parties, sit down, you'd try on all the makeups and stuff, and you'd buy stuff. Similar thing's going to happen, right? Twitter Spaces, if Twitter can figure this out by bringing commerce into it, in Twitter Spaces, they would socialize. They'd say, hey, you know what? You have your best friends. You have your own Twitter space. Hey, you know what? We haven't seen each other in a long time, but I'm going to go shopping. Or, we just renovated our deck, and here's what we bought. Here's what we did. Oh, you should get this. We got this at Home Depot. Here's what it looks like. You could put those things into that space and have a social selling experience for people who are remote. Those are the things where I think social is really going to have a big impact. Yes, social search is going to help a lot for products, and there'll be transactions on there, a lot more of it. But I think that social selling, where people can sort of engage with people they don't see all the time, but they can do it visually in spaces and sit down and share things and say, oh, I wanted to get something for your new baby, but we haven't had a chance to talk. And you might have a virtual baby shower. where the people get in there and say, "Oh, yeah, here's the stuff that we got," and sorry we couldn't make it. It's on the mail and everything else. So it's things like that you should start looking for in the next few years. Where how do I take advantage of those things for my business? What is the lifestyle and life stage my customers have, and how can I get into that for them? And so this kind of the interesting thing about the technology. There's one other one that's a little further down the road that we think is coming, and it's kind of one that's unsettling to people in some ways, because I tell people this, I'm like, that an e-commerce platform is basically a data feed. It has a data feed with an endpoint. An endpoint is a page. It could be a checkout page. It could be Amazon. It could be eBay, Walmart, wherever you want to send your data. That's it. Your shopping cart sends data places, right, where customers can get it. And so why not just send it directly to the customer? In fact, instead of having them come to your site, what would happen if we decentralized shopping? And as more privacy comes along, because we think that's coming, and I think that's it's kind of like on the train tracks already, we can see a decentralization of shopping carts where individuals have in their digital wallet a shopping cart. So they can go to multiple merchants and order from multiple merchants at once and check out at once, kind of like you do on Amazon, but you do it in a mobile wallet, right? It will be theirs, where they don't have to share their credit cards with you. They don't have to share that information. They just give you tokens. Everything's verified and off you go. So that decentralization is a real possibility, particularly with the technology coming on right now. And also when you look at the things I just talked about with the social selling and the social commerce, where I've got my digital wallet done. I don't have to remember credit card numbers or anything. Tokens are out. Everything's secure. So we see things like that increase utility for consumers, their ability to not have to go to 12 different sites to shop, but have the 12 sites come to them, which is what marketplaces do. But then being able to also work through making offers if they want to. We'll see customers making offers back to you instead of you giving them offers. They're going to make you offers. There's a lot of things that are coming down the road in commerce that are not bad things. You just have to adjust and adapt to them. Social selling is a new thing. The AI seems oh my God, it's a lot of work. It's actually not as much work as you think it is going to be, because you're just going to have conversations with it. You're going to let it listen and learn on your historical data, and it's going to get smart. And that way it'll help you, and it'll be a very, very reliable tool for you. So there's a lot going on. We're glad you came over to Commerce 3.0. We're going to talk a lot about tech. We're going to talk a lot about marketing and analysis, how to market retail businesses and build retail businesses. I'm going to share experiences that I've had over the last 30 years. There's a couple fun stories coming in here. You're going to learn about 443. Everybody knows 443. When you make a mistake, 443 is one that'll come to mind. So, but anyways, we hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you subscribe to our channel and come back to us, and we'll see you again. We're going to be doing this once a week. So look forward to you on the next episode.